Welcome to the Curious Hearts Collective podcast, here to help you align to life in joyful, creative, and inspiring ways with your host, Vanessa Trufin.
Welcome to the Curious Hearts Collective podcast. My name is Vanessa. Here we explore the possibilities in life and reconnect to your authentic self. I'm here to help you align your life in joyful, creative, and inspiring ways. In today's episode, we talk about our roots. We go deep within to understand the stories, the phrases, the narratives that we heard growing up that shaped us into becoming who we are, that shape the way that we honestly see ourselves and experience the world. I'm really excited to talk about this. I truly believe it's so important to identifying and connecting ourselves to our authentic self means really getting clear on what our roots are. What are the stories and the narratives that we carry within ourselves every single day? And I mean, they show up, right? They show up when we're making our decisions, when we're choosing partners and relationships, when we're basing the kind of career and job opportunities we see for ourselves. The underlying values, how we see ourselves, the worth we see within ourselves, the stories we carry around show up a lot in our life. And I think as we journey back to our own unique, authentic self, healing some of those stories and understanding those narratives is super important to reconnecting and realigning to our values. So I want to do something right now. I'm going to give you guys in the next couple of seconds a meditative story to go through to help you reconnect back to who you are. So what I'm going to ask is find a comfortable, quiet, safe spot for you to be in. This won't take long. Make sure that you're comfortable. Close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Okay. Trust that I will let you know when you can open your eyes again. I want you to take in a deep breath and visualize a tree in front of you. Where the tree is doesn't matter. I want you to imagine that for a moment, you are this tree. This tree represents all of who we are. The different parts of the tree symbolize the different aspects of our personal growth and how we show up and are seen in the world. Picture the roots deep beneath the earth. The roots are the foundation of the tree. The roots represent the phrases, stories, and influences from our childhood that have shaped us. They are the foundation that feeds into our core values and beliefs about ourselves and the world. Now focus on the trunk. Here we find our core values. The trunk stands strong and tall, symbolizing our core values that support and sustain our growth. It's what keeps us grounded, yet allows us to reach high. And high above the trunk, we find the branches. The branches represent our interests and passions. The branches, of varying sizes and directions, represent our diverse interests and passions. They represent the things that bring us happiness, that align with our values. They represent who and how we choose to love. Some may be more developed and strong, while others are just budding. And lastly, does your tree have a lot of leaves, fruits, or flowers? The fruits and flowers represent our contributions and expressions. They are the visible, tangible outcome of our growth. They represent how we share our authentic selves with the world. They can be there to be seen and admired, while others can be plucked and enjoyed by the rest of the world. Keep your eyes closed for just a bit longer and take it all in. You are the one that gets to nurture and love and watch this tree grow. It's beautiful as it is and has the potential to grow stronger and healthier fruits and flowers. I'm here now as your friendly gardener that actually knows nothing about gardening to help you nourish and love that tree. So go ahead and open your eyes. Come back to yourself. Were you a majestic tree? What did your tree look like? I'm so curious. I picture mine as a I need to learn tree names, but it's thick trunk, tall, deep roots, big, I was going to say leaves and presence, and it just casts a lot of shade. It's a tall and strong tree. And that just brings me joy. I love spotting trees everywhere that I go. So now that we're exploring our roots, the stories and phrases, advice from the media, our peers, religion, culture, they've all shaped how we see ourselves and what we believe about ourselves. One of my favorite stories that you're going to hear me share all the time is about happy feet. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but Mumble is a penguin, and he's literally 10 seconds old, and he hatches from his egg, and he's like dancing and jumping around and excited. And his dad's like, what are you doing, bud? He's like, I'm dancing, Dad, I'm happy. And he's like, what are you doing with your feet? He goes, they're happy too. And then his dad looks at him with disapproval and says, well, that just ain't penguin. 10 seconds into his life, and Mumble is already being told who he is not. You're a penguin. What you're doing ain't penguin. Don't do that. 10 seconds in, you guys. And I mean, that's the whole point of the story, so we can learn and grow from it. But what are the phrases you heard in your life growing up? What were the phrases and stories you heard about you? About who you are, about who you're not, and about who you are meant to grow up to be. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. In the Hispanic community, you hear a lot of people talk. And I'm sure it's like this for a lot of different communities as well. But, ¿qué va a decir la gente? What are people going to say? What are people going to think? So often, I heard that not just from my parents or aunts and uncles, but just around in the community, parents to children, kids to each other. What are people going to think? What are people going to say if you do that? I want to cut my hair. Oh my God, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? I want to get a tattoo. Oh my God, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? I want to live abroad. Oh my God, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? That's just one tiny example of the phrases that we hear that we just adapt, that we choose to carry on with us throughout our lives. Isn't that wild? Think about the amount of times you doubt yourself. And think about how many times that doubt shows up. If you grew up thinking that you were overweight and that your worth came from what your body looked like, you might question the things that you could wear, the people you could talk to, the events you could attend, not to mention the implications it has on how you view yourself, how you love yourself. And uncovering those deep-rooted stories, it's an uncomfortable process. It's not easy. But you have to be willing to make the choice to go there, to uncover the stories so that you can live authentically and like really actually love who you are. Everybody is worthy of that, not just the select few, everybody. So I want to explore a couple more stories and phrases that you and I have heard throughout our lives. And I'm going to ask you to reflect on them for yourself too. Pause this if you need to. Write it down for the end of the episode. What stories did I grow up hearing that shaped my beliefs and how I view myself? So I'm going to give you a few more examples of stories that I've heard from other people's shares, and from my own. Now's not the time for your emotions. You're too dramatic. You're too emotional. Stop. Can you imagine hearing that growing up? And anytime that you have an emotion or a thought come up, you're like, no. I'm too dramatic. Sorry. I don't have time for that. Push it down. Instead of being met with comfort and care. You're too loud. You're too shy. You shouldn't wear that. People are going to think XYZ about you if you XYZ. All these phrases of doubt, of reassessment, of telling you who you are and who you aren't. Ooh, got to do some deep root cleaning. A few other phrases. You can't play with dolls. You have to earn it first. You're too fragile. You don't know enough. You're too sensitive. We don't have the money for that. Actually, I want to touch base on the we don't have the money for that. I have an incredible coach in my life that teaches women about abundance, and I'm fortunate enough to have a really close relationship with her. So I get to hear and learn from her often. And when you grow up thinking you don't have the money, we can't afford that, that's just for rich people, it helps shape the narrative of how you view your relationship with finances, of how if you can reflect if you're coming up on a big purchase, and if your story is I'm abundant in nature, I know that I can have it and I'll figure it out, versus man, that's too expensive, I don't think I can afford that, I can never afford that. I grew up insert the story here. So I just wanted to paint that shift in perspectives in the two different states, and seeing the impact that hearing things like we don't have enough money, we're too poor, only rich people can have that, can shape and influence the way that you base your roots in finance too. So I want to ask you some questions before we move on, because this is a really important topic to me, and something that I think if you really reflect on it and get curious on it can really help you understand who you are. What aspect of your identity have you felt that you needed to apologize for and change in social settings? So what aspect of your identity, what parts of you did you feel like you had to apologize for and go as far as changing in a social setting? I will share more about this in later episodes, but for a large portion of my marriage, my husband and I were polyamorous. And that meant to us, we were ethically non-monogamous. And we got to explore relationships. That's it. We just got to explore relationships with good communication and open and curious hearts. And something that I noticed about myself that I felt like I had to tone down, shift or change, is how outgoing and affectionate I was. Sometimes I would worry that I would make another partner uncomfortable if I was too outgoing or affectionate, or that I would make their partners feel some type of jealousy or insecurity. And a lot of the work that people can do in polyamory and just on their own is around jealousy, self-worth, and understanding and believing who you are. And that was before, transformation and healing and growth is not linear. It's something that we're continuously working on. So I've worked on this since then, but I realized I would apologize for being too much. I like to accessorize. I like to dress up. If music is playing, I like to dance. I like to have fun. And sometimes I felt like I had to apologize for showing up too dressed up, or for being too joyful, or for being too outgoing, for being too much of something. And I worried what me being that way would cause other people to feel. So that's just an example of an aspect of your identity that you've felt like you needed to apologize for and change in social settings. What's the story underneath that desire and need to change? Get curious on it. Here's another question for you. What talent or interest have you hidden from others for fear of being judged or criticized? What talent or interest have you hidden from others for fear of being judged or criticized? Let me give you an example of this one too. I know somebody that loves to cook. I mean, he's phenomenal at it. And in his culture, it's not traditional for men to cook. and to be the ones in the kitchen. And for a while, he judged himself for wanting to do that, for wanting to cook, and thought he was just an assistant in the kitchen. Because if a man was in the kitchen, it was just to assist or to grab a snack, because women belonged in the kitchen in this narrative, in his story, in his example. And that's something that he kept hidden for a really long time until he grew courageous to step into that power, step into that talent and that passion and that interest, and show the world what he was capable of doing. Mind you, the world in this example is his friends and his family, his partner, his sister, his parents. And that's just one bold move of a step towards embracing your authenticity. It's a part of him that he felt he had to have hidden for stories that he would be seen as weak, as feminine, as not masculine. And maybe you're hearing this and thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe he had that. But we all have our different upbringings. We all are influenced to different cultures, education, media that help shape, and I say help, but that shape who we become and how we see ourselves. Okay, the last question. What's one thing you secretly admire about yourself, but might feel conceited or embarrassed to acknowledge publicly? What's one thing you secretly admire about yourself, but might feel conceited or embarrassed to acknowledge publicly? And the words conceited and embarrassed in this question, I love. Because what are your thoughts on how would you describe somebody conceited? Like if I said, oh, that person, tell me what conceited means to you. How would you describe that word? And can you think back to different moments in your life where you felt embarrassed about your accomplishments? What do you think was underneath that embarrassment? In the 3rd grade, I was answering a question in a class, and I'm sitting towards the back, and my teacher is sitting up front with the book, right? And I answered his question, and he's standing there and he's reading his book, and he goes, if you weren't across the room, I would think that you read the answer from the booklet. And I was like, oh, thanks, cool, I'm smart, hee hee. And I got bullied for it. I kid you not. I got bullied for it by some of my classmates. Oh my God, Vanessa, you answered the question. Who do you think you are? And I honestly can't tell you what was said to me, but I remember being bullied, so much so that my parents had to come to the school, and we sat down with the kid and their parents and talked about bullying. And the lasting implication that that instance had on me was self-doubt. Well, I know the answer, but I don't want to say it. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe I should wait for somebody else to say it. And self-doubt on whether I should speak up, and self-doubt whether I was even smart enough. Because I thought I was smart, and then later I was made to feel bad about it. And then I started doubting myself. So these are just small little examples. Reflect on your own life. Think about instances that come up for you and get really curious about it. Ask yourself why. Why did that happen? What did I make that mean about myself? How has it continued to impact and influence how I see myself, how I make choices today? This is some big stuff. So I'm curious, in the shares that I've had and what's coming up for you, what did you hear? This is a question I actually love asking anybody during conversations, period. What did you hear? So often we don't listen. And I say this with so much love, but we don't actually hear what's being said. We hear something and then our brain's like, okay, I'm working on a response now, that we don't hear everything. So what did you hear in my sharing? What did you hear about the root story with the tree, about how the phrases that we grew up hearing often shape how we see ourselves? What's landing for you? What are your takeaways? And how will you implement this into your life? Are you going to be more curious about yourself? Start questioning some of the stories and beliefs that you grew up hearing about yourself? Will you be courageous and maybe a little daring? Do something a little different? Acknowledge the doubt and say, thank you, I've got it from here now. There's so much that we get to uncover about who we are in ourselves. And understanding our roots and knowing that that shapes our core belief in how we see ourselves is a really important part of coming home to us. Now, I do have a few more questions for you, just for curiosity, to help you navigate and understand yourself. I don't have answers for you. I can't give you answers. All I can give you are powerful questions. You have the answers. You get to be honest, you get to be open, and you get to be brave enough to give yourself a genuine, honest answer. That way you get to uncover who you are. Who do you think you had to be in order to be loved or accepted growing up? Who did you think you had to be in order to be loved and accepted growing up? And the next question, what role did you play in your family growing up? And how did that shape your view of yourself? What role did you play in your family growing up, and how did that shape your view of yourself? I actually do want to answer this question for myself and for you. I am the oldest of four in a first generation Guatemalan family. And I'm the second of our girl cousins and the first in my immediate family. And I love being a big sister. To be honest with you, I think I grew so much in my leadership being a big sister and being one of the older cousins, and I'm grateful for that. But that also meant that I was in charge and on top of things. I was keeping an eye on everybody. I was aware of time of day. Like, do we have somewhere to be? Have they eaten? Is it going to be too hot to go outside right now? I feel like I had to bridge the gap between the parents and the children. And I had to be a mediator between the parents and the children. Parents are frustrated. They want this result. Kids are being kids. How do I then speak the kid language to connect with them so that we can accomplish the thing that the parent wanted to do? I felt like that role that I played in my life made me a very analytical and overthinking person. I feel like I had a lot of responsibility growing up as a kid. And I grew up fast. I think I left home at 17 to go to college and was like so excited and ready for it. And even then, I had a higher level of independence in high school than I think most high school students had. So much so that my sisters used to tell me that they thought that when you got to high school, it meant that you were like involved in everything. And then they realized they had the power of choice and like, my sister's crazy for being involved in everything. We're going to just select one or two activities and then be done. But when you think about the role that you played in your family and you think about what you needed to do and who you needed to be to survive, to thrive, to have joy, you start really connecting with how much of that you've carried through in your life as an adult. At the time of this podcast, I'm 34 years old. And about 2 years ago in therapy, my therapist was like, your siblings are adults. And you have a lot going on in your life right now. Why do you feel like you have to be the one to take care of them even now? And she asked me if I even had the time or the energy for it. And my genuine answer was, no, I didn't. And when I let my sibling handle whatever big thing was happening in their life, they handled it in capable, beautiful ways. But a big part of me felt like I had to be the one to step in. And that's a deep-seated root in me. It was that I had to be the one in charge. I had to be a parent at a young age. And it's nice now to realize that I'm also worthy of people's time and attention. I used to carry around the story that because I'm the oldest, I needed to not have needs. That I would just come to my parents with a very clear, here's what I need, here's how you can do it. Thanks, I'm out. I'm independent. I got myself. Take care of the little ones. They need you. Yeah. Mind you, I'm like 9 or 10. And it took me being an adult and making the choice to realize, hey, I'm actually worthy of your time too. And my needs and my wants and my desires matter. And I can speak them out loud. And I can advocate for the kind of care that I want. And I couldn't do that as a kid. I had made up stories about what it meant to be a big sister, what it meant to be smart, what it meant to be a Latina even. And it takes a lot of curiosity and a desire to grow and to explore within yourself to live authentically. And when you are living authentically, you start silencing the little voice in your head that's constantly doubting you and telling you things about you that aren't true. I'm excited that we get to create that kind of work together. So I'd love to know and hear from you, what are some of the stories and roots that have shaped who you are and how you see yourself? And what's the new narrative that you get to tell yourself about those old stories about your roots? I look forward to connecting with you again. Stay curious, my loves.
Thank you for listening to the Curious Hearts Collective podcast with your host, Vanessa Trufin. Don't forget to check out any of the resources mentioned in today's episode in the show notes down below.